In a research aviary in southern Sweden, a raven is shown a tray. On it sits a small stone and three objects that look interesting and do absolutely nothing. There's no puzzle box in the room, there's no food in the room. The box won't arrive until the next morning, 17 hours later. The raven takes the stone. That single choice is the reason this question is harder than it sounds. Because to pick up a stone you can't eat in a room where nothing is happening, you have to be doing something with tomorrow. This isn't a story about how clever animals are. It's a story about how researchers try to catch a mind in the act of holding a future, and how often the evidence slips away. Most of us already assume animals plan. Squirrels bury food before winter. Birds leave before the cold arrives. It looks like foresight, and it feels obvious. The problem is that all of that works perfectly well without anyone thinking about next week. Shortening days, falling temperatures, hormonal shifts, these are triggers, and a behavior triggered by today can fit tomorrow beautifully without anyone picturing it. That's the distinction the whole field runs on. There's behavior that fits a future, and there's a mind that holds one. From the outside, they can look identical. Picture a tiger at a waterhole in the late afternoon, settled in a place where prey will eventually come. It looks like a scheduled appointment. But that same behavior can be built entirely from learned associations. This place, this hour, good things happen, with no image of the evening in the animal's head. The same goes for an eagle riding a thermal above a ridge it uses again and again. The behavior is exquisitely tuned. What's inside it, nobody has measured. So researchers stopped watching hunts and started building situations where habit couldn't do the work. The first real crack came from a jay. Western scrub jays were housed, so they slept in one of two compartments. In one, they reliably got breakfast. In the other, they reliably got nothing. Then, one evening, the birds were given more food than they could eat and free access to both rooms. They hid most of it in the room where they'd wake up hungry. In a second version, each room offered a different single food in the morning, so the jays hid peanuts where they'd only get kibble, and kibble where they'd only get peanuts, spreading tomorrow's menu across both rooms. Nobody had rewarded them for caching. They were solving a problem that didn't exist yet. Hold that for a second, because there's a serious objection coming. Scrub jays are professional food hiders. Their brains are specialists, a skill that only shows up in the one domain a species has evolved to obsess over might not be planning at all. It might be a very sophisticated caching instinct wearing planning's clothes. That criticism has followed this research for nearly 2 decades, which pushed the question toward animals that don't hoard anything. In one well-known set of experiments, bonobos and orangutans were shown a device that dispensed a treat if you used the right tool. Then the device was taken away, and so were they, into a waiting room, tools left behind. The apes who picked up the correct tool and carried it with them got the reward when the device came back an hour later. They started doing it. In a later version, they held onto the tool overnight. In related work, apes chose a tool over a treat they could eat immediately, when the tool only paid off more than an hour later. That's the shape of the whole field, by the way. Give an animal something worthless now that becomes valuable later, and see whether now wins. For a while, the story looked tidy. Great apes could do it, and everyone below them on the primate branch couldn't. Rhesus monkeys were tested across several experiments designed to catch exactly this ability, and they didn't show it. The author suggested the failure may have come down to difficulty learning the link between the action and its delayed outcome, rather than a hard mental ceiling. That's an important caveat. A monkey that fails a task has told you about the task as much as about the monkey. Then a bird broke the tidy story. Ravens aren't tool users in any habitual sense, and they don't barter in the wild. Researchers taught them two things they have no evolutionary business doing: using a stone to open a puzzle box and swapping a token with a human for food. Then came the tray, the functional item hidden among useless lookalikes, offered in a different room, long before any payoff existed. The ravens took the right object, kept it, and used it, at a 15-minute delay and at 17 hours. When the tray also held food they could eat on the spot, they mostly walked past it and took the tool anyway. And when the payoff was made spatially and temporally closer, they took the tool even more consistently, meaning the object wasn't just intrinsically attractive to them. Its value was tied to how soon it would matter. Most striking, several ravens got it right on the very first trial, before they had ever experienced the delay or its reward. Ravens and apes last shared an ancestor somewhere around 320 million years ago. Whatever this ability is, it appears to have been built twice. There's one more piece, and it comes from the forest rather than the lab. In Sumatra, flanged male orangutans give long calls that carry over a kilometer, and they face a specific direction while calling. Field data collected over years found that the direction of a spontaneous evening call, given at or near the night nest, predicted where that male traveled the following day, better than chance until late the next afternoon, around 22 hours, straight through a night's sleep. Females nearby adjusted their own morning routes accordingly. Now, here's the limit nobody has crossed. Every result I've described is an inference from behavior. Researchers can show that an animal's choice can't be explained by current hunger, by simple association, by habit, or by what's visible in the room. What they cannot do is look inside and confirm that the animal experienced anything, that there was a scene of tomorrow, a felt sense of later, a raven imagining a box. There's no instrument for that, not in ravens, and honestly, not in the person sitting next to you. So the answer isn't yes, and it isn't no. The evidence supports a limited, real form of planning in a handful of large-brained species, corvids and great apes most convincingly, where an animal acts now for a need it doesn't currently have. Whether that resembles what you do when you set an alarm is genuinely unresolved, and the researchers doing this work say so openly. What stays with me isn't the intelligence, it's the specific awkwardness of the moment. A raven standing in front of food it wants, picking up a rock instead, carrying it to a corner, tucking it away in a room where nothing is going to happen for another 17 hours, and then going about its evening. We still can't say what, if anything, it was seeing, only that something in that bird was already somewhere else.